Hello again. Here's a summary of a new and different movie. It tells the story of a group of people living on another planet after Earth has been destroyed, where gangs roam. After a while, a woman discovers that the person who killed her husband is the same one she entered into a relationship with. What will her reaction be? Let's follow along and see if she will seek revenge. Let's begin. The movie begins in the future. We see a small family living in a colony on Mars because Earth has become uninhabitable. This small family consists of a young girl named Remi, her dad, and her mom, Alicia. At the time, Remi is sitting in her room, staring up at the sky while her dad teaches her the names of the stars and planets. He tells her stories about Earth, which has now been destroyed. Remi's family lives completely alone, no neighbors, no means of communication, totally isolated. Their resources are just enough to get by. Alicia, her mom, grows small amounts of vegetables, and they have only one animal kept in the barn. Remi has never seen Earth because she was born on Mars. Like any child her age, she's curious to explore the world around her. But her parents always warn her not to go beyond the house's boundaries, though they never explain why. One day, her father comes home late, clearly nervous and stressed. Remi is sure something is going on outside. He whispers something to Alicia and locks the door. Remi eavesdrops and hears them talking about strangers nearby. That night, Remi is too scared to sleep alone, so she joins her parents in their room. Even though she lives on an isolated planet with no relatives or friends, her parents give her all the love and care she needs. She doesn't feel lonely, and is actually happy with her life. Her dad tells her they're incredibly lucky. They're among the few who survived and made it to this place. He's confident that one day, Mars will be developed and become like Earth again. The next morning, Remi wakes up and heads to the kitchen, only to find a threatening message written on the window. It says something like, "Leave this place." Alicia sees the message too, panics, and calls her husband. He grabs a sniper rifle quickly, tells them to hide, and goes to check outside for anyone nearby, but sees no one. He stands in front of the window, shouting, daring any intruder to come forward, but again, no one shows up. A little while later, Remi sneaks outside without her parents knowing. She goes to check on the animal in the barn when suddenly, two masked strangers chase her. Her father jumps in and kills one of them, and before the second one reaches Remi, Alicia attacks him with a knife and kills him. Then, Alicia takes Remi back to the house and they hide. The father stays outside behind a wall, in case there are more of those strangers. Alicia helps him from inside the house, pointing out a sniper standing on a hill. The father takes him down easily and comes back inside. He secures the weapons again and tells Alicia not to leave the house under any circumstances until he's sure it's safe. Then he heads out again, sadly, not knowing it would be the last time they ever see him. Remi and Alicia lock all the doors, terrified. They hear someone approaching the house. Suddenly, all the lights go out. They sit in silence, too afraid to sleep. The next morning, Alicia grabs a knife, ready to fight off anyone who comes in. Out of nowhere, a man appears behind her, armed, and tells her to calm down and drop the knife. His name is Jerry. He's originally from Mars, and he's actually the sniper her husband shot. Though he didn't die, he was only hit in the leg. Jerry tells them this house used to belong to his father, and he grew up here before running away from his parents years ago. Now he's back to reclaim it. He says he doesn't want to hurt Alicia or her daughter. He offers them a deal: they can stay and he'll protect them, or they can leave the place entirely. He tells them he has the skills to make the place better than it was, and he plans to improve it. Alicia grabs Remi, runs outside, and only once they're far from the house does she calm Remi down. She had been terrified. She tells Remi to stay where she is until she returns. Alicia is determined to take back their home at any cost. She watches Jerry heading toward the hill, then sneaks into the house and grabs a knife. She hides, but Jerry finds her and knocks the knife from her hand. He could have easily killed her, but instead, he offers a deal. If she cooperates and acts peacefully for 1 month, he'll give her a weapon and let her choose if she wants to kill him. Alicia agrees, on one condition, that he lets her bury her husband, who Jerry had killed. Remi starts counting down the days, marking off each one on the window. Day by day, Alicia and Remi begin to adapt and survive. One day, Remi was looking out from Jerry's room and writing notes. She realized that Jerry had built an underground storage area where he was keeping all kinds of weapons. On another occasion, she snuck into his room while he wasn't there. She went through his bag and found a dust-proof mask and also his diary. Inside, there was a page with a drawing of the same girl Alicia had killed. Up until that moment, Jerry and Alicia hadn't spoken at all. But that day, Jerry talked to her and told her he found all the tools in the house that he needed to start doing repairs. But Alicia didn't want to talk to him, so she just turned on the faucets and walked away. The next day, Alicia found an old box in the storage room. When she brought it down and opened it, she discovered a robot inside. The robot ran straight toward Remi, clearly showing affection. They quickly became friends, and she named him Steve. Even though Steve was basically a box-shaped machine, he managed to pull Remi out of her sadness. Most of the time, they played together and had fun. Meanwhile, Jerry started getting closer to Alicia. He asked her about his parents, whether they lived in the house before she and her husband moved in. She told him that when she and her husband arrived, his mother had already passed away, and his father had welcomed them and let them stay in the house. But while she was pregnant with Remi, Jerry's father found out they were from Earth and tried to kill them. So they had no choice but to kill him in self-defense. Luckily for them, Jerry didn't really care about his father's death. He never liked him anyway. In fact, his father was the main reason Jerry had left the house in the first place. The next day, Jerry approached Remi while she was feeding her pet. He noticed she had taken the drawing from his bag. He told her he wasn't mad and that he'd give her anything she wanted. But he couldn't make her like him. All she saw was the man who had killed her father. Time went on, and Remi became completely silent. Every day, she watched her mother grow closer to Jerry, until eventually, they got into a relationship. That broke Remi. She became more withdrawn and deeply disappointed. She couldn't believe her mom was in love with the man who killed her dad. One day, she packed her bag and ran away from the house. She didn't realize she was on Mars. The robot Steve saw her and followed her because he didn't want to leave her alone. But she insisted he go back. She told him to tell her mom to forget about her and maybe have another child with Jerry. But she didn't get far. She wrote that the whole place was sealed by a glass dome. That's when she realized she had been living inside a transparent wall all this time, and there was no way to escape. She started screaming until she noticed a giant door. She ran toward it, hoping it would take her to the other side. She pressed the button next to the door, and it opened. Once inside, she found herself in a dark tunnel. Even though she could hear her mom's voice calling from a distance, she ignored it and kept walking. Suddenly, the cave door shut behind her, and everything went dark. The closer Remi got to the other side, the less oxygen there was. She collapsed to the ground and tried to crawl, but she couldn't feel her body anymore. She passed out. When she woke up, she found herself back in her bed. Jerry had saved her. When she came out to talk to him, he told her there was no life outside the dome, nothing but mountains, rocks, and toxic dust. He told her she should actually feel lucky to be living in a place like that. At night, Alicia goes to Remi and assures her that she truly loved her father, and that she loves her more than anyone else. But her relationship with Jerry was only to protect them from his harm. The next day, the three of them gather together, and Alicia starts playing the guitar next to Jerry. This reminds Remi of her old memories, how they used to sit with her dad while he played too. She feels overwhelmed and can't even look at them. She gets up and walks away, upset, and sits alone crying. She still believes her mom replaced her dad with Jerry. The 30-day deadline that Jerry had set ends, and he keeps his word. He puts his gun on the table and gives Alicia the freedom to either kill him or let him live. Alicia picks up the gun and points it at him. Remi is watching everything from a distance. Suddenly, Alicia pulls the trigger, only to discover the gun is empty. Jerry was just testing her. She quickly runs to get a knife from the kitchen. Jerry follows her to stop her, and Remi is still watching, waiting to see who comes out. After a while, Jerry comes out, injured in his arm. Remi realizes, heartbreakingly, that he must have killed her mom. She tries to run away, but he runs after her, hugs her, and tries to calm her down, saying he didn't mean to kill her mother. After that day, Remi refuses to go back into the house and starts sleeping in the barn. Jerry leaves her alone, not wanting her to hate him any more than she already does. Years pass, and Remi grows up to be a very beautiful young woman. We see a group of animals, even though they originally had only one. And miraculously, they now have chickens too. Jerry successfully improved the place, expanded the resources, and even taught Remi how to use a weapon. One day, during lunch, Jerry tells Remi that he's going to the valley and will be back late. He also asks if he can take the robot Steve with him. Remi doesn't feel comfortable with Steve being away and secretly follows Jerry to the valley. She sees him enjoying his time in a small lake, and then he leaves. She becomes curious. It's her first time seeing a lake like that, so she decides to go in. In the end, she gets in the water and feels refreshed and free. When she returns home, Jerry has a surprise for her, a drawing he made of her mother. She's touched the moment she sees the picture. But emotions get confusing. Jerry kisses her, and Remi is shocked. She pulls away quickly, locks herself in her room, and Jerry leaves the picture of her mom on the door. The next day, Remi plans to escape. She prepares the mask she'll wear. At dinner, Jerry openly expresses his desire to have a relationship with her, but Remi firmly refuses and tells him she will never accept that. Jerry tries to explain that it's normal and that they both need this kind of connection, but Remi insists on her refusal. That night, Remi is sitting alone, feeling sad. Steve throws a ball toward her, wanting to play like they used to, but she ignores him and goes inside. Later, Jerry discovers her escape plan and finds the mask she had hidden. He gets extremely angry and tells her she wouldn't survive a single day outside the barrier. They start arguing, and Jerry pushes her to the ground. She hits her head and passes out. When she wakes up, she finds herself tied to the bed, her head bleeding. Jerry starts to get closer, trying to force himself on her. She tries to untie herself but fails. Suddenly, Steve steps in and activates his defense system, shooting Jerry in the neck. Jerry falls down but manages to shoot Steve. Jerry starts chasing after him. Meanwhile, Remi frees herself, grabs her weapon, and without hesitation, shoots Jerry in the head. From that moment, she starts feeling truly alone. She becomes overwhelmed with depression and boredom to the point where she begins seeing things that aren't even real. Steve, who had been out of service due to Jerry, gets repaired. Remi prepares herself to explore the outside world. Before she leaves, she says goodbye to Steve, asking him to take care of the house until she returns. Then she opens the gate and walks through the dark tunnel, wearing her mask. This time, she makes it to the other side and writes that she's now facing the desert, and will start exploring the rest of the world. And that's the end of the movie. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and write your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.